Most people think trauma only shows up in breakdowns, outbursts, or dramatic life stories. But what if I told you trauma often hides in plain sight, masked as silence, overthinking, or even the inability to say no? It's not just what people say, it's also what they don't say. Trauma communication isn't always loud. Sometimes it's the quietest people in the room who are screaming the loudest inside. Think about that one friend who suddenly ghosted you, or the coworker who avoids conflict like the plague. Is it just personality, or could it be something deeper? The truth is, understanding trauma and communication means learning a new language, one built on nonverbal trauma cues, emotional shutdowns, and subtle trauma triggers most people overlook. And when you do start seeing these signs, it's like unlocking a secret code to human behavior. Your relationships, your self-awareness, and even your mental health will never be the same again. In this video, we're diving deep, beyond the surface level, to uncover the invisible patterns trauma survivors carry into conversations, relationships, and everyday interactions. You'll learn how trauma affects communication without most people even realizing it, and how you can start recognizing the hidden messages behind words, silence, and body language. If you've ever felt misunderstood or struggled to connect with someone who's emotionally distant, you're not alone, and you're not crazy. You're about to learn something most people never will. The silent language of trauma, how it shows up in everyday conversations. Most people imagine trauma as something loud, shouting, crying, breaking down. But in reality, one of the clearest signs of unhealed trauma is silence. Not the peaceful kind, but the kind that holds back thoughts, needs, and boundaries. Trauma survivors often shrink in conversations, afraid to take up space, fearing rejection or judgment. Ever met someone who agrees with everything, avoids eye contact, or apologizes for simply existing? That's not just being polite. That's trauma body language doing the talking, and it's not always easy to spot. Trauma communication can look like someone constantly second-guessing their words or explaining themselves even when no one asked. A person might laugh to cover discomfort or freeze when a topic gets too real. These subtle, nonverbal trauma cues speak volumes, but only if we know how to listen. Understanding trauma behavior means recognizing the why behind the silence. It's not weakness, it's survival. Let's take a common situation. You're in a group discussion and someone's unusually quiet. Instead of jumping to, "they're just shy," ask yourself, what emotion are they hiding behind that silence? Hypervigilance trauma makes people scan for danger, even in safe spaces. Their nervous system stays on alert, preparing for rejection that may never come. So next time someone zones out mid-conversation or suddenly pulls back, realize it might not be rudeness. It could be a deeply ingrained trauma response. These moments, though small, create massive disconnections in relationships. Trauma and connection don't play well together when fear runs the show. But what if we could start spotting the signs and responding differently? What if, instead of taking things personally, we started seeing these behaviors for what they truly are? Echoes of emotional trauma trying to feel safe. Trauma talks in code. Why direct communication feels impossible for some people. You ever ask someone how they're doing, and they hit you with, "I'm fine," but you know they're not? That's trauma communication in disguise. For many trauma survivors, being direct feels unsafe, like saying what you really think might lead to conflict, abandonment, or even danger. This is especially true for people with complex trauma or PTSD communication struggles. They've learned to filter everything they say to avoid being too much, too needy, or too emotional. Instead of expressing pain, they minimize it. Instead of asking for help, they hint or stay quiet. And when conversations get emotionally intense, their trauma triggers take the wheel. One wrong tone, one wrong word, and boom, emotional shutdown. It's not just about avoiding hard conversations. It's about not knowing how to have them without reliving old wounds. This is why understanding trauma in relationships is so critical. Otherwise, we mislabel survival behavior as manipulation or indifference. Let's say someone you care about keeps saying, "it's no big deal," when they clearly feel hurt. Pushing them to open up might backfire unless safety is there first. Try this. Instead of demanding honesty, offer presence. Say something like, "You don't have to talk, but I'm here when you're ready." That softens the internal alarm. Trauma behavior doesn't disappear under pressure. It dissolves when trust is slowly rebuilt. And that takes patience, not perfection. These patterns, vague answers, avoiding confrontation, not setting boundaries, are signs of unhealed trauma. And if you've experienced emotional trauma yourself, you might have noticed these patterns in your own voice too. Honestly, the more people understand this stuff, the better our communication becomes. So if this is hitting home, you might want to send it to someone who needs to hear it. Maybe even hit subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next. Sometimes the loudest part of a conversation isn't what's said, it's what the body does. Trauma body language is real. A stiff posture, sudden fidgeting, crossed arms, avoiding eye contact, these aren't just quirks, they're nonverbal trauma cues. The body remembers what the mind tries to forget, and even when someone says, "I'm okay," their nervous system might be screaming, "I don't feel safe." That's the paradox of trauma. Your mouth can lie, but your body rarely does. And the kicker? Most people miss it completely. They'll say, "She's cold," or "He's being difficult," not realizing they're watching a trauma response unfold in real time. This is especially common in adults with complex trauma who've learned to mask to survive, smile even when they're panicking inside. But if you pay close attention, their communication after trauma shifts subtly. Hesitation before speaking, hypervigilance trauma cues like scanning the room, or even physically shrinking when someone raises their voice. Take conflict, for example. For someone without trauma, disagreement is just part of life. But for someone with a trauma history, it might feel like danger. Their voice may crack, or they shut down mid-sentence. If you want to support someone like that, try regulating your own body language first. Slow down your tone, relax your posture. That calmness becomes contagious. It's one of the simplest yet most powerful trauma recovery tools, modeling safety without saying a word. This is the heart of trauma healing journey work, learning to recognize the signs of unhealed trauma not just in language, but in motion. Once you begin seeing the silent signs, you realize just how much goes unspoken in the people around you, and maybe even in yourself. The truth is, most of us are walking through life carrying stories we've never told, and communicating in ways shaped by wounds we barely understand. But now that you've seen how trauma affects communication, how it whispers through silence, hijacks body language, and scrambles honesty, you've got something most people don't: awareness. And with awareness comes choice. So here's the real question. Knowing what you know now, how will you show up differently? In your conversations, your relationships, yourself. Will you brush off someone's withdrawal, or will you pause and ask, what might they be protecting? Will you listen just with your ears, or also with your eyes, your gut, your heart? You don't need to be a therapist to offer safety. You just need to be human, curious, patient, and a little more attuned. And if this video sparked something in you, well, maybe it's time to go deeper. Maybe send it to someone who needs it. Or better yet, stick around. Hit that bell, subscribe, and join the kind of conversations that actually matter, the ones most people are too afraid to have. Because healing doesn't happen in silence. It starts with understanding.